All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I acknowledge this is the last session before the keynote, so we're gonna drive this home for the day. So, save the best for last. Which one this will be? So, appreciate all of you for being here. Recognize there's many different talks going on right now, so you guys came to the best one. So appreciate you all sticking around for this one. So the panel discussion is driving efficiency, unlocking the value of analytics in manufacturing. Exciting topic. So I'm going to introduce the panel. So definitely appreciate all our panelists here for different companies to come in here and talk about the topic here. So first here to my left, we have Kuzuma Tigwala, who's the Data and Analytics Solutions Services Leader at Cummins. Thanks for being here.
Hi.
We got Shilpi Reddy, who is the Principal Architect at Eaton.
Hello.
Andrea Sudara, who is the Chief Information and Digital Officer at Dana.
Hi, everyone.
And last but not least, we have Lynette Holliday, who's the IT Manager at Detroit Diesel, a division of Daimler Truck.
Hi.
Awesome. So, desired outcome, so we're looking to gain insights into how analytics is shaping the future of automotive manufacturing, enabling smarter, faster, and more cost-effective production. So let's start. So first question for the panel. We can go in order. If anyone is inclined to answer first, go ahead. So what are the biggest challenges in implementing data-driven decision-making on the factory floor, and how can they be overcome? So once again, what are the biggest challenges in implementing data-driven decision-making on the factory floor, and how can they be overcome?
So hello everyone. I hope everyone is still charged up after like almost 3/4 of the day gone, right? I think the biggest challenge which I see on the shop floor, it's more kind of like the timely availability of the data. And not just the timely availability of the data, it's more like availability of the relevant data to make instant decisions on the shop floor, because shop floor decisions are like very quick. You need to act like immediately, right? So availability of the relevant data becomes like a key point for any shop floor application when it comes to like data and analytics. Sometimes like finding data, today's world, data storage is very cheap, compute is very cheap. So people have a tendency of throwing all the data in the data lake and everything, right? So we have like a huge pile of data. How do you find the relevant data for making quick decisions on the shop floor, which is like most critical business for manufacturing, right? Sometimes it becomes like finding a needle in the haystack, right? So that sometimes can be challenging. But I think the bigger challenge I see on the shop floor is like the challenge of like a different culture, right? The culture on a shop floor is completely different than the culture in the office environment, right? People who are working on the shop floor, working on the assembly lines, their mindset is completely different than the mindsets of like people who are on the in the office environment. And I think sometimes like it helps a lot if the decisions or maybe like these new technologies and everything, decisions around implementation and everything is coming right from the shop floor up to the management rather than going down, because that helps in engaging people with those decision makings. And I think the third point probably I will put is like sometimes the trust in data has always become a problem, right? People are not like really able to trust the data easily to make their decisions. They are all mostly like going by their experience and their own mechanism of decision making. So some of these like becomes like really a challenge in terms of like using data and analytics from the shop floor.
I also think that the challenge is showing the value of having the data analytics. We find that on the shop floor, you have a lot of descriptive analytics, like, how many widgets did I make today? So getting that adoption for more value-driven data is something that is a challenge for the shop environment.
Yeah, I would add that similar to what you both said, and a small experience we had at my previous company. So we built this dashboard to provide on-time delivery statistics to the plant for systems, and we worked for 6 months with the plant users and built the system, deployed it, and it was initially going well, and we thought it was going well, and there was a lot of data gathered behind this. But then as time went on, we found out that they were not using it as expected. And the reason goes back to the things that you all brought up, like data, trust in the data was going down. Initially, when we initially built the system, they trusted it, but when they saw a few errors in the system and something that went wrong on the plant floor, they slowly started not using it. So I think it's very important to make sure that you maintain the quality of the data over time, not just one big initial push, but how do you sustain that quality and that trust in the data?
I might add just a few points. So as it relates to at least the data environment, and I've been a few different places, but we have a lot of legacy data challenges in our manufacturing environment. And so instead of trying to go back and fix the source and master all the data, we've decided to take a bit different approach, which is, what are the metrics, what are the enabling things that we want to do, and focus on kind of the outcome and then pattern and model them. And so some of the really big wins have been like labor. And so we have a lot of our plants that actually have two different business units inside of the plant where we want to share people across. And so quickly analyzing who's badged in, who's clocked, who's available with certain skill sets that could go from one kind of line over to the other. And once the plant managers and the supervisors see the potential of that, so instead of calling a fresh new person off shift, which obviously impacts their P&L, they're all for leveraging kind of the enablement that we've provided to them. And I think, and you hit on something, but also being able to process the data at the edge. So we've left a lot of that more local, just because they have to make decisions in real time, right? So.
And just to add one more point to that is where your data experts are. So the environment could have an IT department that has the subject matter experts on the data engineering, the pipeline, and building the dashboards and so forth. But then you need that business person to step in and show you where the pain points are, show you what that data means to them, how they use it on a daily basis. So the challenge is identifying how you can bring those pieces together in that shop floor environment.
All right, I'm going to ask a question that is not on my sheet, so I apologize ahead of time. So do you all find it as an opportunity, or do you guys have it where your data teams are actually going to the shop floor? So the point about adoption, trust, availability, do the teams actually go and talk to the people on the shop floor or interact with those folks who are using it? Or is there a layer in between the SMEs or the business stakeholders that they get to actually talk to the folks using some of these data products?
Yeah, I can go. So we have a hybrid situation where there is SMEs that are the subject matter experts, but we started something where the data engineering teams, so they would rotate every 6 months, visit at least one plant, and we also did some live sprints. So from the plant, so we would sit at the plant directly with the users at the plant, make the changes, show it to them. So that brings appreciation from both sides. Both the business users see why things take time, and the data teams can see what the business users face on a daily basis. So that helped build that relationship a lot and understand each other's problems.
So I think, for us in Cummins, normally in a manufacturing company, IT focus on the shop floor is mostly on the infrastructure, right? They are always talking about infrastructure on the shop floor. But for us, we have our team of people who are also doing data and analytics work for the shop floor now. We are running projects for Industry 4.0 now. I mean, getting all the machine data and all of that kind of things to start making some of those decisions on the shop floor. So we have teams which are basically embedded in the sites. So they are controlling all the AMS systems and everything. And they're also bringing these data and analytics use cases up for implementation. So that we already have. We have started doing that now.
Yes, we are in a very collaborative environment. The people on the shop floor that do the work and interact with the systems and the data most, they feel free to come and interact with us, and either they want help on how can I do this myself, or they want us to collaborate with them to see how they could further develop their data use case.
I'd say ours is maybe a hybrid as well. So we allow citizen development all the way down to user. But if it's, as an example, a KPI or something that we're intending to leverage across, sites, we have more of a centralized model in that regard, because we're looking again at standardizing the information so that, if there's a management read of whatever analytics are coming out, that it's consistent and standardized. But it is all a marriage between the engineering, kind of the landing team within IT, and then the business experts that take that use case end to end.
Okay, great. All right, second question. How are analytics helping automotive manufacturers build more resilient and efficient supply chains and warehouse inventory management in the face of global disruptions? So read again. How are analytics helping automotive manufacturers build more resilient and efficient supply chains and warehouse inventory management in the face of global disruptions?
So I think the biggest area which I think where data and analytics is helping with the supply chain specific function, you normally see like supply chain is distributed into like multiple sub functions, right? So there is order management, there is procurement, inventory analysis, inventory valuation, then there is a logistics component to the supply chain. They operate independently in their own silos, right? I mean, that's a typical in any manufacturing company. Procurement will have their own analytics, their own stuff, and then they're good at it, whatever they do. What analytics helps is actually connecting the dots together, bringing all these sub-functions together so that it can operate as a one supply chain unit. I mean, instead of like working as different silos. So they can connect the dots when there is a disruption like the one which we are going through right now, that whole tariff thing going on, right? So it helps in connecting the dot. So analytics helps with that connection and give a holistic picture. They can now see impact of one on the other, which is normally not the case in a supply chain, in a manufacturing industry. So that's where I think that analytics is adding a lot of value in supply chain function.
So when you touched on, and I think there's a question about tariffs, but I feel that IT, at least in our company, has really kind of risen to the top with respect to making quick decisions about where your inventory is, where your risk is, and being able to build your inventory based on the demand signals that you're seeing. And that's all analytics, and it's being done by the second right now. I mean, it's a highly variable environment, right? And I just think back to even 10 years ago, the sophistication compared to today. We're driving real value. And then in non-chaotic times, real impact to the bottom line with respect to how much inventory you're carrying.
And now that we are concentrating on being data-driven, we're bringing lots of pieces of data together. So you're looking at supplier performance, you're looking at delivery times, you're looking at many different components that you've brought together that allow you to make those decisions as to when things get disruptive, who's the most responsive, or who can get us this quicker, and those things.
Yeah, to add to that, something that we have been looking at is real-time data marketplace, just to enable what everyone else has said, that because there's so much variability, the data marketplace within the company also needs to be close to real-time, as close to real-time as possible. So that's something that we have been working on at Eaton.
Okay. And now for the question that is not on the sheet. Build versus buy. How do you guys or your companies think about these capabilities around supply chain inventory management, of going out to buy systems that can bring the data together or give you insights versus your internal data teams pulling that together and building out those insights yourself? So kind of how do you guys think about that, or what are you guys doing in that, kind of going out for third-party applications versus doing a lot of this stuff in-house?
That's an interesting one, because it's always a battle with the business partner that you're working with when they have a need and you do go out and say, okay, well, this is off the shelf. And they were like, well, I want to customize it to death. You know, it doesn't have enough customization, and you always have that battle. So, from an IT perspective, it's up to us to be very, consult with them and do the pros and cons and the benefits. But there are many different factors that build, buy, reuse. So what do we do? Business need, business pressure, dollars, support. And resources available, and those things all play a part.
So yeah, for us, traditionally we are like build in the build mode, right? We'll just build whatever we need, right? So we have a lot of traditional legacy systems operating in the company, which are like maybe like hundreds of legacy data warehouse systems which are built to fulfill certain needs. Like for supply chain, we have a legacy environment which caters to all the supply chain needs. Now we are moving towards more kind of like newer technologies or something available off the shelf. If there is something available, can we use it instead of like building our own? So that's the shift we are slowly having now in the company in almost like all the areas, that wherever it is possible, something is available off the shelf, just get it, implement it, and move on. I mean, that's the faster implementation cycle we are trying to come onto.
We're consistent with that. So very much a buy first. There are quite a few off-the-shelf packages that have a lot of capabilities that can be exploited. So that's our go-to. And then if it's a differentiator for us in terms of a capability, then we consider building it ourselves. But we're a tier one, primarily B2B company. So we find that we're better served by partner tools that we can then build off of.
Yeah, we have a similar approach where, the undifferentiated heavy lifting, if we can get that in a buy scenario, that would be a preference. And if it can fit 80% of our needs, there's no tool that fits you 100% right away out of the box, but can it do majority of the things out of the box is a big consideration also.
Okay. Next question. Ooh, this is a good one. What is the role of analytics with the recent tariffs in a global company? What business decisions can come out of this analysis? So what is the role of analytics with the recent tariffs in a global company? What business decisions can come out of this analysis?
Having that data and being able to model the different variables. You have your dependent variables, but then you start taking that data and sticking in all other types of variables to determine what's the best course of action, depending upon what direction a tariff may go.
Yeah, we have actually been internally talking about this is because there's so much uncertainty, right? So, and what the first thing you do when there's uncertainty is you create contingency plans, and to do that you need to be able to do scenario planning, and for that you need really good data, right? Like what's the cost of your raw material, what's the optimum route, and how do you optimize everything, and you can't do that overnight. So I think building the data culture and having that good data foundation is critical when times like this come.
I think for us, we quickly built a data, I'll call it dashboard, war room, whatever you want to call it. And it had to start first with, what products, what are the different logistic patterns. So in some cases, we have products that move 2 to 3 times. What materials are in said products, and then, what is the potential impact. And so now, that we have the variables, the input, as things have changed and percentages have changed almost on a daily basis, we can quickly adjust and react. Which is really valuable because we sell to customers, so we have to have the data to have the discussion with our customers to say, here are all the parts we're supplying to you, here's the total cost impact to us, and or the potential logistic slowdown. I mean, I think there's a lot of talk, at least, that the collection of tariffs at some of the borders is going to slow down the traffic quite a bit. We saw that actually previously. So, having preemptive discussions with customers too to lay out specifically where those impacts are.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things, like as Andrea said, like, okay, if we're having data available to be able to deal with this kind of disruption is a key. So we were also able to create something like in a week or so to just see the impact of the tariff and everything related to it. But see, the thing is finding out an impact of the tariff is not probably a bigger deal. Maybe every company have a spend report they can quickly go and figure out what is going to be the impact on the revenue. So how much revenue is at risk here. The key factor here where analytics play a big role is basically going down to the product level and figuring it out that, okay, which product has the highest impact and how do I focus or which product I focus on it. And then the biggest impact it can have is on how do I recoup my cost. So basically, tariff is going to cost something to the company, right? And then companies don't want to take the cost themselves. They want to distribute the cost either at the supplier side or the customer side, or like both, or combination. So how do you do that? What is the impact? How much you can basically leverage from the customer? How much you can leverage from the supplier? Those kind of decisions can be key in this kind of a description. And that's where basically analytics play a big role, because if you have all the data available, then you can create something like this where you can go to the product level. For example, in an automotive industry, if you are selling like say 15 different car models, you can go down to the level that, okay, which car is affected the most and how do I deal with this one? I mean, how do I change my sourcing of the product or the raw material? How do I change something else? Okay, how can I reroute my products in a different way to avoid the tariff? And those kind of decisions basically can be the key where analytics can help a lot.
Okay. All right. Question not on the sheet. So when it comes to these conversations as data leaders, I guess thinking out loud in terms of how you all fit into the conversation. So are you all like in like the war rooms of discussion when these are happening, or is there like subgroups where you guys are advisors and you're kind of tasked with building these things, or are you kind of in the front lines with the decision makers? I guess how does that work in terms of kind of each of you and like how you're getting involved in these discussions as they are occurring? Because, you know, especially with the tariffs, it's just happening in real time and everyone's kind of having to react. So there's different ways to manage the work, and you know, you also have other projects going on, so you have to manage that with other initiatives as well. So I guess how do you guys think about that in terms of just how you're getting involved and managing that with the other aspects of the business as well?
So I think for us, like the main impact, the major impact of the whole tariff is on the supply chain, right? I mean, that's the area which is hit hardest by this whole tariff thing. And obviously the finance, right? Because that's the direct impact on your revenue. So we are structured in a way that every function has their own data and analytics group or team, if you will, right? So they basically are right on top of this whole thing. They are trying to build something, and then I'm involved in a way that I control all the data, which is going in and out from everywhere. So we are always involved. We have seen a lot of increase in the demand for getting more data to do some of these analysis, right? So data which is already available, we are seeing a lot of access requests coming in for getting that data out from the data lake. And then we have data lake and we also have a Snowflake. So a lot of use cases are coming up to build something there where these kind of things can be built quickly, right? So we are at an advantage that way, that okay, every function has their own data and analytics team. So they are kind of jumping right on it, right, on the tariff. And they're trying to figure out, okay, what their individual groups are having impact, how can they help, and then how can they collaborate with other teams. So mine is a centralized team, right? So they always come to us for anything related to data or maybe data needs or building analytics or something like that. So that's probably how I am involved in almost like every talks going on around the data needed for this tariff evaluation or actions kind of.
We are the same way. We're behind the scenes, and the business partners and the decision makers are saying, we need this information, and then that's what we do. We provide the data that they need to make those decisions.
All right, next question. How are automotive and manufacturing companies leveraging machine learning and AI technologies? How are automotive and manufacturing companies leveraging machine learning and AI technologies?
So this is one of my favorite. I assume almost everyone in the room is with a manufacturing company, yes? So we have vendor after vendor after vendor, suppliers, integrators come and tell us, you know, everything you should be doing, can be doing can be AI. You know, you don't need engineers anymore. You don't need this, you don't need that. I think where we are, we're primarily, as I mentioned, a business-to-business company. We have very much embraced AI. We have a very robust backlog, a whole suite of use cases that we're running down, but it's the same strategy that we have used across data, which is where we have purchased packages. Many of them have embedded AI, LLM built into them already, so we extort that, extrapolate, get the most value out of it first. And we've had some incredible success with that in our engineering space, in our manufacturing space. And then we've taken the co-pilots, we've got some, some other instances where we've taken some customer service data and built our own LLM around that. And again, something that doesn't already exist off the shelf. And then we definitely have found some really positive use cases within our engineering environment with, some, I'll call it agentic AI, helping to automate some of the scripting and within IT, frankly, cyber and network and support desk being, kind of the top three there. But so far, at least for us, it's not replacing everything that we're doing. So, we get these pitches saying, well, you should be spending 60% of your budget on AI and building your own LLM, and we're not quite there yet because we're extracting a ton of value from the packages that we're already using and the partners and their embedded capability.
So I'll probably answer this in like two ways, like split it into like ML and AI. So the ML component is more kind of like there are already many use cases, right? Even on the shop floor, there are a lot of use cases about like predictive maintenance of the machines, and then biggest one may be like the finding the anomalies in the product, and then anomalies in the machine operation. I mean, that can be like achieved by ML a lot. And then maybe threat detection, which is like not just related to cybersecurity, but it can be also like maybe threat detection in other areas of the manufacturing company. So, and then process automation is another one big use case for the machine learning, right? But I think for the AI, we are trying to use AI, but being a publicly traded company, SOX compliant and everything, there are a lot of challenges which comes with that, right? So it's not an easy thing to just turn the switch on AI and say, okay, hey, we are all set with AI, and then start using it, because there are a lot of challenges with the security, data access, data privacy, like SOX compliant, export control, whatever you name, right? I mean, GDPR, there's tons of things, right? We have to take care of. So we are getting there. I mean, there are places where we are using AI, like in some other areas where we have been using AI in other areas other than manufacturing specifically. But now we are getting into this whole industry 4.0 and everything. That might open up some use cases for AI, specifically even on the manufacturing side, on the shop floor also.
Yeah, so at Eaton, we have a lot of use cases and there's a lot of AI governance that's become really important. But a few examples that I can provide is we are working on using computer vision models. How can we use it for quality management and shop floor? So the process that we have today is as a human that inspects the part that comes out. If it looks defective, they put it in the scrap bin. But there could be a lot of errors in that just because of the way it's done. But what we are trying to do with these new vision models is there's a camera and the parts go through it and the images are sent to the model and it decides, because it's been trained, if it's defective or not. So that is something that will give us a lot of efficiency. We're still trying out all these things. I wouldn't say that a lot of things are live yet, but we are also, where needed, we also partner with Palantir for their ontology. Like we are doing something called AI spec reader where we can quote quickly to our customers. So it's coming from various different angles. Obviously, chatbots, that's a big use case. But what we're figuring out is how do we govern all these use cases? How do we govern the data that goes into these models? That's a big one.
So we have lots of experimentation going on also. We're like the legal aspect and security and specifically which tool we use, which model we use, where are the use cases. So it's a lot of experimentation going on, and we're still basically figuring that out as far as production is concerned.
I think one other thing which I wanted to throw out here is like AI in general, like, okay, we talk about it a lot, okay, how helpful it can be in almost like every area of the life. But if you think about like use of AI in data and analytics space itself, how can we help use AI to push the data and analytics use cases also in the company? That can be a pretty good thing too, right? Like for